Welcome. I'm Cheryl Mitchell, the president of Trellivan Inc., which is a retreat and learning center located on a sheep farm here in Vermont, and we're very interested in the intersections between spirit, nature, and social justice, and have found that it's been a wonderful opportunity to partner with Building Bright Futures here in Addison County and also Let's Grow Kids to have the opportunity to talk about the ways our communities support families with young children. So I am thrilled that our guest today is Dr. Jody Brakely, who's been in this community for many, many years, supporting families here in many different ways. Today we will specifically be focusing on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention and ways that parents can be aware of child development. We'll also talk a little bit about the Children's Integrated Services. Anyway, thank you so much for coming, Jody. I'm just thrilled that you're here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
I feel like you're sort of the anchor around early childhood in our community, and I'm wondering if we should start, which would make more sense to you, with the CDC approach and helping parents to understand child development. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So my understanding is that we're going to talk about the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Learn the Signs Act Early program. It's a fairly new program, and there are a lot of exciting things about it. One thing is that it's completely free. They make enormous amounts of information and materials available to families, to caregivers, to physicians, and anybody can obtain these resources. And so what they do, it's called Learn the Signs Act Early, and it was really, I think, started as a thought to raise awareness and give people tools to help identify children who might have an autism spectrum disorder early.
Okay.
Because we know that children do better if they receive services and supports early on. So this program, for which there are all these free resources, is available, and I think you'll show the website.
We'll show the website at the end, and there'll be more contact information for people also.
Great, great. So one of the things that they have, and I'll just show you some of these are at particular intervals, just a check sheet for parents to use, or a caregiver could use it, or a grandmother could use it. And what it has is what most babies do at this age. For instance, this is one for a 2-month-old baby, and it breaks it down into the social emotional aspects, into language and communication, and then cognitive stuff is how you think and reason and process, and then the last one is movement, so physical and motor development. So these are all the things that you would be looking for, which, you know, parents, that's what you write in the baby book.
That's right.
My baby did this today, my baby rolled over, or said mama, or whatever. This box here, the call-out box, are the things that if the baby is a little bit delayed in doing that, then the parent just says, maybe I should mention this to somebody. And so it gives everybody a tool that they can use. And it's fun too, because then you can put it in the baby's book. But they have them for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 9, 10, 15, 18, right up to 4 years old.
4 years old. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's starting a lot younger than they used to.
Well, docs have always done it. So if you go into your pediatrician or family practitioner's office and you bring your baby, we've always had little checklists that we used. We weren't always as, we didn't always share that openly, I think. Sometimes, but sometimes not. And so it may not have been as clear what we were looking at. This really involves the family. And it gives, it gives a lot of information, and it makes it really enjoyable, I think. So this little book, the Milestone Moments, I saw and thought, oh, that's such a cool thing. I wish I'd had that for our children. And then I went to the CDC website and ordered them, and they come in packages of 10. We only need one because we just have one grandchild right now. But But anyway, this does exactly the same thing as this, but in miniature form. And there's a place where you can write your comments and keep your comments, and then you could take it into the doctor's office.
Nice.
Yeah. Or you could discuss it if your children happen to be in childcare. You could discuss it with your childcare provider, and then kind of get your questions in all in a row. So this is sort of a really nice thing as well.
Right. And if parents would like it or caregivers would like it, they write to CDC?
Yes.
Or they go on the website?
You could go on I think you can call them actually, but the easiest thing I think is you go on the website and you just click, yeah, I'd like one of those, and I'd like one of those, and I suspect we've presented this to the early childhood caregiver group, and also to the pediatricians and to I'm not really sure if it's in the Welcome Baby package yet, but that's one of the things that would be a great place for that.
It would. It certainly would, yeah. So everybody in this community is organized around knowing that these resources exist and helping parents to get them?
Getting there, yeah. And I think that's, excuse me for interrupting, but I think that's one reason that we're presenting it here today. I think it's posted on Miniberry, and certainly other people know, but the nice thing I think about this program, or another nice thing, is that it creates a common vocabulary, so that we're all sort of looking at similar things, and it just makes it a really fun journey.
So I'm wondering, could you maybe go a little bit more specifically into, let's say, 18 months and what parents might be looking for and what might be in the call-out box?
I think that's a great thing. Let's use one of these as an example. So there's 4 years. I'm just guessing where 18 months is.
Doesn't have to be 18 months. But
18 months actually turns out to be a really good one because it dovetails with what's going on in the pediatrician's office. And because at that age, developmental screening, looking at children's milestones or their development at any certain age, we pediatricians, family practitioners, doctors do that, and we've always done that. But in the last several years, it's been recommended that children be administered a specific autism screening instrument at 18 months and again at 2 years, or any time that there are really concerns. So 18 months turns out to be really timely. Yeah, great choice. So this it says how your child plays, learns, speaks, and acts, offers important clues about your child's development. Developmental milestones, again, a common vocabulary, are things that most children can do by a certain age. So in this one, at 18 months or a year and a half, under the social and emotional aspects, it likes to hand things to others as play. So giving something to somebody else. Might have temper tantrums, normal, but it's nice to know that's normal.
That it's normal. Yeah.
Yes, may be afraid of strangers. Again, a very nice landmark to know. You don't have to worry that your child is too withdrawn or too reserved. Shows affection to familiar people. Plays simple pretend, like feeding a doll, or patting a doll, or changing a diaper or something like that. May cling to caregivers in new situations. That sort of goes with is afraid of strangers. That's a safety issue, actually. You don't want your child to go to just anybody.
Right.
Points to others, points to show others something of interest. So there's something where he might point and look, and then look to see if you're looking. And you want to see that back and forth reciprocal sharing. And then explores alone, but with the parent close by. So they're not going far. They know, and then you'll also see them look back at a parent often.
To see if they're paying attention.
And to see how they're doing. So away at a year and a half, a child is gauging his or her own behavior, which is really pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go through some more of these, or do you want to just get the idea?
I think that gives us a pretty good idea. What do you want to talk about the call-out box? What kinds of things might be reasons for alarm?
Sure. So in this box, it doesn't point to show things to others. Can't walk. So at 18 months, that's sort of getting to the upper limit range of what would be typical. Doesn't know what familiar things are for, like a cup or a comb or a brush, toothbrush, those kinds of things. Doesn't copy others. So at 18 months, we're looking to see if a child will copy you if you're wiping the table, put clothes or dishes away, put on a hat, pretend with a screwdriver maybe, a little bit of things that they see adults in their environment do or an older sibling do. Right. Children should be copying some by then. Doesn't gain new words, so we're looking at the total vocabulary a child has. Doesn't have at least 6 words, because we know that
by 18 months.
Yeah, there's a big range of normal, but by 18 months we're really looking that the child has at least 6 words and that they're specific. So mama is for mom, and dada is for dad. Doesn't notice or mind when a caregiver leaves the room. So just people come and go, and the child just kind of goes on about what he's doing. And then the last one is loses skills that he once had. So maybe the child had 15 words or 25 words that were meaningful, and suddenly really not. So those are just examples.
So if you're a parent and you happen to have this and there's a concern, then what's the next step? I'm guessing your pediatrician would have picked it up already.
Maybe,
but maybe you're new to the community, maybe.
Or maybe, pediatricians and family practitioners have a lot to do in a very short amount of time. And so it may be that if you don't say, oh, I have a concern about this, and by the way, it's very difficult to say, I have a concern about this. Or you might feel like if your mother or mother-in-law is saying this, it may not feel very comfortable to talk about this. So the doctor may or may not know this unless you bring it to his or her awareness. So the doctor is a great place to start. And then, but it does happen, it can happen that the doc would look at the child and think, oh, everything looks great, we'll just wait a little bit. And sometimes that's perfect advice. But you might go home and feel like, oh, that doesn't feel right to me. So then what do you do? And my motto has always been, never worry alone.
That's a great motto, too.
So in that case, then there are other places that you could go. Not because somebody is right or wrong, but just to make sure that your hunches...
That you feel comfortable that the bases are covered.
We always say that parents know the most about their child, and we think that's very, very true. So you could, in this community, you could dial 211 in Vermont, and if you dialed 211, a very nice person would come on, and they would say, your referral place in your county is the Addison County Children's Integrated Services, that's CIS, and that's located at the Parent-Child Center.
Great. So they would help you get in touch with the Parent-Child Center.
Yep, they would do that.
At the end of this show, we'll also have their information, too.
Right, that's great. If you have that number, or if you even know 211, it will get you where you need to be.
Right. And then what would happen? What if...
If you call, probably you would talk to Sue Bloomer.
Okay.
And she would take some information and ask you some questions and everything. And then I think what would happen is one of the CIS specialists, the early intervention specialists, would visit with you and interview your child and visit in their own surroundings.
They would come to your house?
I think so.
Could do that, or you could come someplace?
Wherever is comfortable. Some people are very comfortable having other people come into their home, and then for some people, they may not be, and so you set up another place. Okay. But they do whatever, my experience is that they do whatever works best for the family and the child.
And then let's say they decide that your child and your family needs some more support. What might that look like?
What's next? So the family, the the CIS early interventionist or a family advocate, it could be either, would visit with the family in whatever setting. And they would use some standardized tools to help know where the child is in their development. So the CDC materials, those are screenings, a little, kind of just broad strokes, we would say. The earlier interventionist would have an instrument or a tool to use that would provide more detail. And then depending upon what they find, maybe they find everything is great and they can just be very reassuring. They can say, oh, you know what? 6 words is plenty at 18 months. Being a little bit shy is okay. Your child is just beginning to walk. I can see that balance is so just reassurance and information. If that's not the case and they think, you know, maybe your child really does need a little bit more support, then they'll arrange that. They might say, I'm suspecting that your child might need a little bit more physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech supports. And so if I'm pretending to be the early interventionist, I might say, I know quite a lot about that, but there are people that even know more. And so I'm going to arrange for my colleague, whoever it is, to come and really give us more information about your child's speech.
Right. And if that happens to family, is that free for families still at that point, or is there insurance covering it, or how does CIS work for
I think
families?
it's free.
I think it's free.
I think it's free to a certain age. And then this is where I have to apologize that Sue Bloomer isn't here, because she really is the person to know. But
we were sorry that she wasn't able to come today.
Yes, but I think it's free. And then I think, so that's birth to 3. It's probably beyond that, actually. And then at 3, though, children enter the public school system if they choose to do that, and then there are resources in that domain. So then there is another step, another level, so to speak, even, if after a child is receiving services through Children's Integrated Services, and maybe they're getting physical therapy and speech once a week or every other week or something. Sometimes everybody puts their heads together, the CIS folks and the family and maybe the doctor, and if they think even more information is needed, then they might refer to the Child Development Clinic, which is another CDC, which is very confusing. But the Vermont Child Development Clinic is part of the Department of Health, and then more intensive evaluation is done.
So you're part of all these worlds. Maybe we could back up for a minute and talk about your career here as maybe starting. You were my daughter's pediatrician, so I'm so thrilled. And, I wish that you could be my granddaughter's pediatrician, but I know that your trajectory has changed from doing direct office work. But maybe you could tell us
a little bit of my path.
Bit of your path.
Yeah, I will tell you this, that I read in the paper all the time, and I always search to see if I can see her picture and what she's doing. So anyway, so my path started in, probably started before 1980. I went to college here in Middlebury. But in 1980, I came back and started practicing pediatrics with Dr. Pete Peters. And that was great. And so I was a primary care pediatrician for 25 years. That was when you were on call every other night and every other weekend. And we didn't have pagers and cell phones. We had this big, huge radio phone, I think is what we used. But so I did that for a while. And then I had a lot of time off that either I needed to lose or sell back, or I decided to take it and studied for the Developmental Behavioral Pediatrics specialty boards and did that. And then for a few different reasons, started my own practice and simultaneously took a job at the Child Development Clinic in Burlington. And so that's what I've been doing for the last almost 11 years.
Wow. Yeah. And you're also, you're also supporting the whole CIS team as a volunteer, right? Can you tell us what brought you to do that and what you do?
Everything sort of dovetailed. And so my work at the CDC, and then the CIS folks are so welcoming. They have this big they have meetings every week, but one big meeting a month. They have representation from the whole community. So home health and public health and the children's, so Addison County, the Counseling Service of Addison County, and all the childhood caregivers and everything. So anyway, they were really warm and welcoming when I said, can I come? And so I have, and last year we spent, every other month I did a presentation, some kind of presentation about brain development. And this year we're continuing that. What brains need to develop, what happens if they don't get those crucial elements of responsive, interactive, nurturing, back and forth interaction with a parent or a caregiver. So that took us, the next step was learning more about complex developmental trauma and stress, especially, I mean, there are good stresses, of course, but a lot of focus is on what's called chronic toxic stress. So we're learning more about that. And then, if you know about that, then the next logical step is learning what can you do about that. And so now as a community, we're taking that next step forward.
So exciting.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we're doing mindfulness practices. So anyway, that's what I'm doing.
It's wonderful. I feel we've been so lucky to have experts in this community who are really dedicated to helping each other learn and grow.
Yeah, yeah.
I so much appreciate. I'm also wondering, would you comment briefly on, you raised your children in this community too, right? What it was like for you? And
well, what a fun question to ask. We have 3 children, and actually, our son and daughter-in-law had their first baby a day and a half ago.
wow.
So I'm just coming from the hospital here to visit with you. But it wasn't just chance that we decided to be here. Of course, Peter grew up here, but we wanted a community that really functioned as a community, and where everybody cares about other kids, each other's children, that's safe, where the outdoors is just a matter of opening your door and stepping outside, where you can ride your bike or walk everywhere. I drive my car 3 times a month just to go to work because I have to lug so much stuff.
Right.
So it's been a wonderful place to be. Yeah.
And it sounds as if your son and his wife have stayed here.
They live here. They live just across the train tracks from us. And so you can't be much luckier than that.
So I'm wondering, Jody, are there things that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask?
I don't think so. I think we really wanted folks to know about this wonderful resource.
Could you show this fabulous chart?
Oh, this is really fun.
I think this is so cool.
When a parent goes onto the website, there are lots of different things. You can print all of these materials, these little single sheets, separately for your own child. If you're a daycare provider or a child care provider, you can do that. But if you are a parent and you ask for a little packet, they'll send you a Milestone Moments book and this great, big, long thing where you can measure your child.
So you can just pin it to your wall and keep it there for 5 years.
Yes, and so you can put a picture, and then each of these things here says, again, what children should be doing at this age. And if you're Spanish speaking, you can have it in Spanish. And by the way, a lot of these materials, I was looking at them, are printed in Somali and many languages.
That's nice to know.
So you can see that on the website. But this is just a really fun thing, and then it becomes part of the baby book.
Great. And do you want to tell us about the 3-year-old book also?
This is another. This is so fun. I was seeing a 3-year-old at the time and thinking, when I was looking at these things, and so this is Amazing Me. It's just a free book that talks about being 3 years old and what remarkable things they do and how amazing they are. So this is for children and for their families.
Great.
So.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome.
I want to let people know that you gave a wonderful talk here in the library, which I believe actually you can access through the community television site. And people will be able to see this show as well. And we are beginning to develop a resource area downstairs in the library so that if you've heard about things on the show, you'll be able to pick them up.
We'll leave these things there for you then.
Sounds great. Okay, so if you've been intrigued and you want more information, the contact information will come up in a minute. And I just wanted to thank Middlebury Community Access Television. They are incredibly wonderful to work with. And if you have ideas for things that you'd like to learn about in early childhood, you could let Dana Anderson or me know. But if you work for an organization that's a nonprofit and you want to get the word out, you should just contact the folks here and they'll help you to do it. They're fabulous. Thanks.